So here we are, Craig, with another installment of
On the Deck with Craig Valine and Scott Evans.
and whoever else happens to drop by.
Anyway, hey, you know what? We were just talking about people not taking action or people not achieving results because of the familiar, the courage to break free of the familiar. Let's talk about that.
You know, was it Richard Bandler and John Grinder?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so they were like the first guys to start developing NLP, as the story goes. And I was reading a book, Richard Bandler, he wrote. And he talked about a conversation he had with Virginia Satir.
Right.
And she was, I think, one of the two people. Milton Erickson was the other one.
Milton Erickson,
okay.
that's
That they wanted to observe and find out why they got such great results. Well, during a conversation that Richard was having with Virginia Satir, he was excited. He says, "Virginia, I think I found out or I've discovered or theorized, what the strongest human instinct is." And he says, "It's to survive." And she says, "Well, Richard, through my experience and working with people for so many years, because she was a pioneer in the family and in therapy and all this stuff, right? She said, I think the strongest human instinct is to look at the familiar. Sometimes we call this a comfort zone,
Right.
or a fallback position or something like that.
Right.
So the issue comes when someone has to change the habits and routines. Well, there's all kinds of books about this. There's all kinds of concepts and theories and exercises on how to change routines. But I think something interesting to think about is this: a guy named Irving Lindquist, who was he was the pastor at the Hollywood Presbyterian. Point this way because it's over there. Hollywood Presbyterian Church, this big church. He wrote a book called Notes for Living, or something like that. And he said courage is letting go of the familiar.
Yeah.
So if on one hand, Craig, you have the strongest human instinct, okay, for the sake of this discussion, is to look at the familiar, but in order to move forward or to pivot in a different direction of immediate and massive, mission essential activity, you need to let go of the familiar.
Right.
How do you reconcile that? So that's what we're going to talk about for the next couple minutes.
Well, there's lots of metaphors for that, right? A ship, Columbus would have never found America if he had stayed in the harbor, right? If he just stayed safe in the harbor. And you'll never make it home if you just keep your foot on first base, right? Anyway, but the point is that, I think that from my own experience, the things that have kept me from going, it's just fear of what's on the other side.
We're going to talk about fear in another video here pretty soon, but
Yeah, but it has to tie with it, right?
well, it does.
I'm from Boston, and I have to tell you, when I first drove cross country for the first time, I didn't know anybody here. I stayed with relatives of a girlfriend I was dating back in Boston, and when I hit Iowa, I think that's when I started to tear up. I was like, what the heck am I doing, right? This is going to be a whole new life. I was moving out here to be a deputy sheriff or a cop or something like that, and it was scary. It was really scary, but I've been out here for 20 years.
Well, look, the more time you spend in a space, thoughts, ideas, concepts, the more familiar you get with them.
Right.
So if you can put more attention towards walking toward and getting familiar with, instead of running away from, which when you're running from something, you've got a lot of attention on that thing. Right? Which that's energy.
Right.
And that's maintaining some degree of familiarity.
Right.
Even with something you don't want. So I think really it's a shift that's needed to say, look, vision boards are good,
Yeah.
but actual doingnesses are required to apply enough energy and focus enough energy on an area where we become more familiar here. So you're letting go of this familiar, now you have a new familiar.
Well, you started this conversation talking about NLP, and I'm a master practitioner in NLP, and one of the exercises that you go through is for layman's terms, imagining this thing that you want. Is it close? Is it far? Is it clear? Is it out of focus? That sort of thing. And I think, to just break it down to the ridiculous, if you will, is I think that a lot of people don't see the extraordinary value of what they want, and that's why they stay back. Does that make any sense?
Well, kind of, because the value, if they don't get to that thing that is of supposed big value,
Right.
they start devaluing it so that they didn't miss an opportunity for something that was of high value. So think about that. If you wrong somebody, you start to belittle them because you don't want to be in the position of wronging somebody who was of high stature or a good friend and so on. And if you didn't meet an objective, you start lessening the value of that objective so that now it wasn't worth achieving anyway.
Right.
So I think that's I think it's an interesting concept and more to come.
Yeah, more to come. Well, listen, this is Craig Valine and Scott Evans. This is about fear and courage, right?
Yeah.
No, it's being with the familiar.
Yeah,
The familiar.
The
We
familiar.
don't even know what we're talking about. But anyway, on our next installment, we're going to talk about more about fear.
Yeah, because I'm really tired of people saying fear is the barrier to success. I don't believe it, and we're going to blow that myth out of the water. Stay tuned.
All right. This is Craig Valine and Scott Evans. We'll see you next time.